we spend so much time training ourselves on the hard skills. We try to learn different programs. We try to better ourselves in that aspect and what we are physically drawing, printing, and providing our clients. And we're not spending time actually training ourselves on the soft skills or professional development skills side.
You're listening to the Architect My Life podcast, a show dedicated to empowering women architects and designers to achieve business growth, financial freedom, and health and wellness. I'm Aya Schlachter, your host and CEO of MGS Global Group. Our company provides Revit, ArchiCAD, and CAD drafting services to busy architects and design firm owners. MGS Global started as a part-time gig when I was a new mom, but it has now grown into a thriving business that provides drafting support to creatives, helping everyone maintain a healthy work-life balance. This podcast is proudly presented by MGS Global Group. Now let's dive into this episode. Hi everyone, our guest for this episode is Katelyn Rossier. Katelyn is a licensed architect at Smith Group and the brain behind MentorDINO. With degrees from Kent State University, she has tackled complex projects in healthcare, higher education, workplace, and science and technology. Katelyn, inspired by her own experiences, highlights the transformative impact of mentorship in our industry. Fueled by the mentors who kept her in the profession, Katelyn is now dedicated to helping professionals of all generations through MentorDINO. I'm so excited to talk to her today. Welcome to the show, Katelyn. Hi, Katelyn. Welcome to the show. I'm so thrilled to have you here on Architect My Life podcast. I met you a few months ago in Boston, and I was really excited to see a fellow content creator as well. And I know this is not easy to do what you're doing with a full-time job, and we'll get into that in this podcast. So your brand MentorDINO is such a fantastic resource for architects, and you've been killing it. And I've seen all of your shorts. I was looking at your YouTube channel, and it's really been a big help for those starting out and even for those who have been in the profession for quite some time. So I know your passion for mentoring is what sparked MentorDINO, and that it's the advocate for mentorship, coaching, and training. But I want to know first, how did this passion come about, and how has mentoring made a difference in your life?
Yeah, thanks, Aya, for having me. I've been following you for a while, so it was great to meet you in person over at WLS. MentorDINO and mentoring in general for me, it all goes back to starting out my career in architecture. I had a very tough project where I had a lot of professionals leave the firm. There was no backfill. I was still a recent grad, and I went from recent grad to project manager with a contractor that had no respect for women, let alone a young woman on the construction site, a very difficult owner that's not used to construction. And he could see the project from his office, which is never fun. And a mixed bag of support and not support from the firm. The team members that were left had other issues going on that I was low on the totem pole. But there were a few professionals in the firm that really helped me along the way, became a resource I could go to for questions. It didn't make the project any easier, but I was able to have those sounding boards and learn along the way. And I actually attest those mentors keeping me in the profession, because I questioned my own confidence. I questioned, did I even go in the right industry? Let alone I was studying for the exams at the same time. I actually got licensed during that project, and still just not having the respect, taking a male summer intern with me to the construction site, and they had more respect than I did. It wasn't easy, but I saw how mentoring can really shape and help people in the profession to get people through difficult situations. And I grew a lot on that project. I was able to jump on and be a team lead a lot earlier in my career than I think I would have had if I didn't have that project under my belt. And I actually started blogging around that time because I wanted to talk. I wanted to say something. I wanted to help others. And so I started blogging back then. That was probably 2016 timeframe. And I blogged on and off. Working and being a young professional, like, you just hit those deadlines and you got to take a break and figure it out, kind of just your time, because you need to take breaks. And eventually it just it turned into, I kept wanting to gravitate towards blogging and doing something to help others, and finding that I really enjoyed launching a summer intern program within that firm and helping others and building training. I've trained people in large firms how to use Revit starting out. And that passion and drive has always been there. But then all the firms around the country try to do it in all their different little nucleuses and not help the industry as a whole, because we all have the issue, at least from a recent grad perspective, of the transition from education to practice is a huge jump, and we keep losing professionals because we're not giving them the tools they need to succeed, and they're hitting those stress projects and then just leaving. I could have left the industry. So that's where I finally stuck my feet in the ground and was like, you know what? I need to make this, get over a lot of imposter syndrome and confidence issues that I know what I'm talking about, and having so many conversations with people that were just surprised and impressed with things and advice I had. And I was like, oh, this isn't common sense to you, to how to run a team, how to build people. So that's where I started, just pulling everything together and recorded courses, just so prices can be pretty affordable. So much of architecture is small firms, and they don't have the finances to bring in speakers all the time or the depth to help train and teach. So that's kind of the evolution and story on kind of my backstory, my passions. And now I'm just having so much fun. It is more evening and weekend time, but yeah, I'm more excited at the end of the day to jump in and work on MentorDINO stuff.
So I just want to thank you for that. I remember I have the same experiences as a fresh grad. You walk in and you start working in a company, and people don't really have the patience to teach because they're very exhausted because of all the deadlines. But I had that one mentor, Irene, who really redlined everything and taught me the right way and how to dimension. Like I like what you said about transition from school to real life, to real working life, because we're not trained to do that. And I think employers expect, just because we come from really good schools, that we're already at par. But I really commend you for starting MentorDINO. And this one of the reasons why I also kicked Architect My Life is a different story. It's also from architect to business person, right? It's like, I'm always wanting like you to teach people how to run a business, and you how to jump from student to finally being employed. So I also wanted to say, I'm curious as to your journey and why you created MentorDINO and the name behind it. I just want to hear about, MentorDINO and the name behind it. And then we'll go to your course creation later on, because I'm also curious about that.
Yeah, the name MentorDINO, that was a fun experience. Because I had been blogging on and off. The blog was actually called Mentor Architect. And then wanting to form the company, make courses, created an LLC just to have that protection for myself as a business owner. But I couldn't go for an LLC with the word architect in the name, or else it would assume architectural services, which I am not providing drawings under the name of MentorDINO. I would have had to go for a PLLC for the state of Pennsylvania, and it would have been a whole lot more in terms of financials I would need to pay every year for something that I don't need that liability for anyway. So I had to go through a crazy time of trying to rebrand and rename, and also finding a name that's not taken by something else. When you add coaching or training type names, there's so many life coaches, yoga coaches, like so many things. So it's like certain words I had to stay away from. I love the word mentor, and I really wanted to keep that name part of it because that's the center point of what I'm doing. And it was actually a person in my office that I went to college with that he's like, you need to make an acronym that makes sense, that you can go off the wall, but it still circles back and comes back in. And so DINO the whole name stands for Mentoring Designers Innovating New Opportunities. So that's where the DINO came in. And as a natural architect, as soon as I had DINO, I was like, I can make this little DINO guy. And I started hand sketching and then putting trace on top of him to start layering different fun things he can do. So I named my little dino guy Trace, because then I automatically pulled trace paper in. Because I also didn't want my name as the company face. Like, there's so many architecture firms named after the owners. I now have more respect for them because I always thought it was funny, but it is actually hard to come up with a name when so many names have already been taken. But that's kind of how the name came together. And I think it's fun to have a little cartoon guy because I don't want to see my face on everything necessarily. I like having a different backdrop and have him do different things and play. And then I've been learning different graphics with it. I'm going to see if I can get him animated on my own, because I am the graphic designer, I am the writer, I am the editor whenever my friends are tired of reading all my stuff before they go out. So it's a learning process.
I love it. I mean, I love the icon. I mean, the dinosaur at the back. And can you repeat that again? What does dino mean?
Designers innovating new opportunities.
I love it. I super love it. So, you mentioned that MentorDINO is all about navigating career transitions and the people side of architecture. So, can you share more? Can you be more specific about the challenges that architects face during the transitions and why you focus on training these situations?
Yeah, so I have kind of two responses to your question. The simpler one with the training side is we spend so much time training ourselves on the hard skills. We try to learn different programs. We try to better ourselves in that aspect and what we are physically drawing, printing, and providing our clients. And we're not spending time actually training ourselves on the soft skills or professional development skill side. We need to be able to communicate not only to architects, which is pretty much all you learn in school, but you've got engineers, contractors, owners, users, the community. There's so much more to being an architect that if you're only training half of yourself, then you're not building up your whole self. You could be a phenomenal designer and a high achiever, but if you're not building trust or able to communicate, what kind of value do you bring? You could be that high designer but can't communicate design, so you're not going to get it across to the owners and our clients. But if you can communicate design, that can leverage the whole industry. So spending time leveraging and learning both sides. It's a lot like physical and mental health. We've been ignoring mental health for decades and decades, and now we're finally talking about it more, which is fantastic. So we can bring our whole selves to work. It's the same concept.
So there are a lot of people who are natural introverts, and how do you? I mean, introverts in general like to process information and just do their own thing, right? Most of the introverts. So, how do you help develop these very introverted people developing more like professional development skills and soft skills? Like I just want to hear your experience
That
with
part, it's all
training. Yeah.
about learning how to learn. You were never taught in school how to do school. And so you can be an introvert, you can be an extrovert. You're just going to learn differently and learn what your comfort level is. So networking and building relationships is really important in the architecture industry, regardless if you're trying to win work or just talk to other professionals. That doesn't matter. And so you do need to build up that skill level, whether you're an extrovert and an introvert. And an extrovert may be perfectly fine and comfortable jumping into a room of people they have no idea who they are, but if they don't have a plan, they're not going to get anywhere. The introverts may just need to be able to pull it back to take manageable steps. So they can say, you can find the common thread for the people who are at an event. And then instead of creating ambitious goals, work on baby steps on who you're talking to. And if you're very introverted and brand new, just try to meet two people at an event and have a good conversation and be able to follow up with those two. And maybe that's your goal because you're an introvert and you're working your way into networking. And it may not be your favorite part either. I don't think I'll ever sell a very introverted person in loving a networking event as a outgoing business development person would. I know I'm more of an introverted extrovert. Like, I can go to networking events and have fun, like WLS. I was on a fun high of talking about MentorDINO to so many people, but the day after the conference, I was dead. I just needed like my
Your
alone
energy.
time. I didn't want to talk to anybody. So you got to learn when to balance and learn yourself. So I know that about myself, but it was only through practice. So it's providing everybody with steps on what to practice, then having them set their own goals based on what they're comfortable with.
So do you have a strategy for people who want to integrate this into their to learn how to learn or to learn how to do the thing? Like, I mean, what is your strategy for people? And also talk about, I know you launched a course in the beginning of MentorDINO. I saw your first YouTube video. I'm curious to see how that went and, you know, what that course was about. I know it
Yeah.
relates to my question about development.
Yeah, so the course development took me a while. People were very surprised, and it took a lot of time recording, and I've probably been working on MentorDINO content recordings for 6 months prior to actually launching, because I was very ambitious. The first launch actually had 3 courses part of it, because I really wanted to make a well-rounded variety of courses that young professionals and recent grads could benefit from. And it's about balancing hard and soft skills. So I will never launch 3 courses at once again. I have learned that.
Did you get signups?
I've got signups on a couple individual ones, but I do bundle the 3, which was the point of me launching it all at once.
Yeah.
But I also launched it a little bit later. I presented at a conference at Build Pittsburgh, which is an AIA Pittsburgh event. And I wanted the courses live ahead of that. And I didn't have the time to get it completed, and I didn't want to rush anything. So it went out a month later. That may have hurt some sales. But those 3 courses, it's a Revit crash course. So a lot of students don't learn Revit in school anymore. They're
So that
staying
was
in
your
Rhino.
first course, a Revit crash course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of the
Okay,
3.
perfect. Okay,
And
so yeah,
then,
talk about all of them. I'm
yeah.
curious. So the first
So
one, yeah.
the Revit crash course is your speed onboard type Revit training. If you hired somebody and they have no clue, haven't opened Revit before, that's your go-to spot that I can get somebody moving around in a model within 2 to 3 days. I usually recommend 3 days to take the course. So there's breaks, and I have times that I want them to practice. You could fly through it theoretically in one really long day, but then you're not going to retain anything. So I provide 2 options, whether it's 2 days or 3 if they've got other onboarding. So it's something firms could bring in as part of their onboarding process. BIM well is the other hard skills. So I dive deeper into Revit and show them how to dimension properly, where to look for company standards, because everybody does things slightly differently. So I
this
can
is
go.
a second course that you
That's the
launched.
second course.
Okay.
And so this one I'll go through, okay, here's what a wall tag is. This is how it's defined. Here's where the differences are. And now you need to go look up your company standards and see where they are. Typically, your first wall type is going to be a standard metal stud with drywall on both sides. Go figure out, is that a P1, a P0? They usually start with a P, but it gives them time to go find the information. But I also talk about where to put a door, how a door is actually built. So you can pretty much throw a door in most spots in Revit, but if it's not buildable, having the clearances on the side for all the framing and understanding codes and accessibility. So I can go through that so they have the stepping stones. And the point of BIMWell is to be that resource that people can go back to, but give the tools to the young professionals to ask questions. So it's to give them a stopping point, because I know I had times where I didn't ask a question and it ended up costing money because I was told something was done in a certain way and I noticed something was different and I didn't raise the question because the project architect said, it's all set, it's locked, don't touch it. And I said, okay. And one of them was wrong and it cost a bunch of money to fix it. And so they're like, well, why didn't you say anything? I'm like, well, you said it was done. So I learned you should still always ask the questions if somebody says something else. So that BIMWell course is about diving deeper into Revit and giving people tools to ask proper questions. So hopefully we have less errors and omissions going into construction, less RFIs, and then more intelligent questions so people can learn the right answers. I'm not going to be able to teach everybody every specific instance on a project, but if we can get to a point to ask better questions or be more curious on projects, materials, and things like that, how much better are projects going to be, and how much more are you going to learn along the way. Then
And then the third.
the third course of that trio is where my real passion is, and it's those professional development skill side. And so that's build your foundation. Now, this course is meant to be your first 90 days at a firm, or potentially 120 if you're going to do Revit training and just get used to the firm, and maybe after a month start this. I provide a schedule because it's 20 hours, I think 20 hours of content. No, I'm closer to 15 hours of content on it. But I hit a lot of different topics between ownership of your work, responsibility of your work, because students are going from having complete control of a project and designing all sorts of fun shapes, cantilevers that can never be built for the price tags that we have today, and showing them how they can still have ownership in their work and design authority on projects, but it's going to be a smaller scale. So it's about resetting the expectations. But I go over empathetic listening, so not just listening in general, but how to listen with your whole self, but understanding people, how to learn, so they can learn how to go through the licensure exams if that's part of their process, or how they learn best in understanding projects and materials. Are they better on finding videos on YouTube on how a wall goes together and then looking at details, or go call a product rep and learn and have a discussion with somebody? I go over goal setting. I use the AREs as an easy one because I find goal setting and planning for the AREs simple.
Okay.
It's very straightforward, at least. We go over stress optimization and burnout. I've been burned out before, and when you learn about burnout and stress, you have so much more power over it, because when I was going through it at the time, it was very overwhelming. And now that I've learned about it, I can go, oh my gosh, yep, that exact step, I hit that point. Like, it's eye-opening when you reflect back. But the point of it's to help people recognize it in others. I've noticed when team members are starting to get burnt out, and I can call their coach or their team lead and say, hey, I'm really worried about X. They need some additional support. You can see it in people's eyes when they're getting burned out. So it's training teams to notice it in others, because most of the time you can't notice it in yourself. But
How did you learn all this, all the stress part? Like how, like to help people with stress? Like, can you talk about that process? Because I'm also curious.
so much reading, listening, writing, my curiosity, like the
Mhm.
professional development skills, I can go down rabbit holes and rabbit holes of finding books and resources. I know I learn the best through watching and listening. So I gravitate to a lot of audiobooks that I can get the audiobook, and then if I really like the book, then I end up buying the book too and having that copy. But a lot of different podcasts, educational resources, buying my own courses just to learn more about it. And when you start diving into the material and understanding there's actually steps in a process, I kind of wish I got a minor in psychology along the way, or sociology. So that's kind of the baby steps on how I've learned, and then just putting it in an organized way and relating it back to the AEC industry and creating that common thread. There's a lot of other life coaches and career coaches that can probably help you through burnout as well. But we are such a unique industry as architects, designers, and engineers that a lot of people don't understand what we do. And we need that connection back. And so all these things I talk about, the full curriculums are all online, but all of them, I'm relating them back to actual experiences or examples that somebody would see in our firm workplace. So that's that thread that can give people a little bit more of that light bulb moment to be able to realize it. Whereas if you have a business coach that has just done straight business or straight marketing, it's a different world over there versus what we're doing. So that was kind of the thread I didn't see as much about. There are a few architects that talk a lot about mental health, but not as much on these other skill building and team building aspects directly related to how project teams are set up. I know with your company, it's probably hard since you offer services as, you're providing staff for other teams, and it's how do you
Yes.
integrate those team members
Yeah,
and
yeah.
bringing them on. So,
Yes. Yeah, it's very complex, but we all learn from experience and just tweaking and tweaking, like what you do, right?
yep.
And I asked earlier in our podcast questionnaire about you mentioned something in the podcast questionnaire. You say we need to stop learning through trial and error or waiting for the experience. So what do you mean by this?
So a lot of the times, more seasoned professionals will say you're just going to learn on the job, or you're going to learn as you work through projects. And a lot of the times we learn these life lessons or failures on a project when you're in construction, which is not only really costly for an owner, but a lot of the times the owner's not happy. You're potentially, depending on the leadership of your office, they can either be very good at educating you on the feedback, or they can be very degrading. People aren't taught how to give and receive feedback properly. And when they're not done so, then it can really throw people to the ground when they're trying to learn. And they do feel bad. I've made mistakes and have learned from them and remember a lot of the cost dollars that it cost the owner. And I felt awful about myself. So if we at least provide training blocks up front, I know a lot of seasoned professionals don't want to go through those red lines and do every step. They do want young professionals to figure it out along the way, which I agree you need to give them room and not micromanage. But if you give them nothing or not a solid base, then they're just spinning their wheels, and then it's going to take so much longer. Whereas if you just taught them the initial steps, they could get to the completion faster. They'll still probably mess up, which is fine. That's part of learning. But you can get to that final result quicker, and it won't be as degrading because it's going to be part of the teaching process.
Yeah.
And you've even mentioned professionals are so busy. It's hard for people to find time to mentor. So I found a lot of drawing sets in different firms. The seasoned professionals don't even have time to fully QC a set because the set is bad enough that they don't have time to actually go through everything in detail. So I even provide feedback on how to actually QC as you go. And you can do that through teaching properly and building up your staff. So then by the time you hit the big QC deadline, it's not a big, oh my God, this whole project is on fire and our deadline's next
Mhm.
week and now everybody's stressed. You can dive into the fine grained details to make sure you have scope covered and not you've got dimensions all over the place. And I call it Revit vomit everywhere because it's not
I love
organized.
it. I mean, I don't love it, but it sounds funny.
It all makes
Rabbit
sense. You know
vomit.
exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So I always say this, like a smart person learns from their mistakes, but a genius learns from the mistakes of other people. So
Yeah.
um
And you'll still learn. There'll still be mess
yeah.
ups. We're human. There is no such thing as a perfect drawing set, and there's no such thing as a perfect project. But if we can try to catch mistakes and make learning and objectives happen during the design phase, that'll make construction administration a little bit easier. Hopefully, not as many RFI paperwork, hopefully, not as many change orders to the owner, and can leave everybody more happy and that they've gained something and not hitting the end of the project just like, oh my God, this was awful in construction. I am drained because of all the rework you have to do. And a lot of firms don't leave a lot of fee in construction for a bunch of errors to happen. Most of their fee is already killed during the design phase.
Right. Or the
So,
schematic.
yeah. So it's just like
Yeah.
if you're burning fee early and not leaving the fluff for people to fail and learn during construction, then you need to spend time letting them fail during design and teach. So then the construction percentage of their fee can actually make sense so a firm can be more profitable. And when the firm's more profitable, we can have actual bonuses, we can have salary increases, we can, if you learn to communicate design, you can advocate better for your firm's quality of work. There's so many things that we've just lacked and not had balance.
Where were you when I needed you when I was like I just graduated from college? It's very stressful.
It
I
is.
mean, just going straight to work with no experience. How are you marketing your courses? I mean, I want everyone, every college graduate to know about you, like everyone. Also, so how are you marketing your services? And number two, are your courses geared towards a particular firm type, or like are they for residential? Like what are, because Revit is, you can use Revit for like massive, multifamily homes, I mean buildings versus
Yeah.
smaller. So yeah, so again, I think number one is how are you marketing your services, and two, who is it for? Like if a new grad was gonna buy your course, are they looking into being prepared for a smaller mom and pop or a medium sized firm? Yeah.
Yeah. So marketing, I'm all over the place. So I'm taking the Dory method of just keep swimming, but I'm just going with, I just keep talking. And so I want to just keep telling people what I have. And that's kind of been my strategy for this year. I've had my running blog. And on there, I even share ARE experience stories. So if anybody's going through the AREs, they're all free and just people are sharing their process and their journey.
Yeah. I saw
Um,
you had 50 already,
I've
right?
hit I think 60 by the time this
Oh, wow.
is recording.
Congratulations.
So it's
Yeah. Yeah.
it's been fun. But reaching out to people on LinkedIn, just talking to people so then they can just see what I'm doing. I presented at Build Pittsburgh. I presented at a conference in Columbus, Ohio. That was the Oswald conference. I went to WLS. I applied to present and didn't make the cut for it, but I still went just to go talk to people because people just need to know that this resource exists. I'm on Instagram and Facebook. So, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook are my social media platforms that I post every single day between stories of professionals to advice, reels. I'll probably be making a big batch of stuff over the upcoming holidays where it's kind of gloomy outside in Pittsburgh. So I can plow through
Yeah.
some
Same
fun
here.
videos.
It's, I'm like falling asleep earlier because it's so
Yeah,
gloomy and rainy.
exactly. And today is
Right.
really rainy.
I know.
So on there, I branched into YouTube to tell stories of professionals' journeys. The ARE series is pretty easy to send out a questionnaire, but everybody's journeys through the profession are very unique. And I wanted to highlight everybody's path can be so different. You have the architecture or engineering base of education, but you can really find what aligns best for you, whether it's a small firm, residential, your master planning, you could offshoot and be an owner. There's so many different paths. And so I just wanted to start talking to people about their paths, how that transition is, and how mentoring helps. And that is not easy to get people online. It's a lot easier to talk to somebody like we are today.
Yeah.
So after being on Architect Ed and from the Honeycomb podcast, both of them are like, you have to start a podcast. And I was like, ah. So branched into YouTube. I'm going to try to see if I can get it over some stories over into a podcast side just so I can be in different forms and share my story. And then just reaching out to people as I meet them, just seeing how I can help their firm because that's what I'm here for. These courses are meant to be broad enough that it doesn't matter what firm type you go to, but specific enough that you should hit most of those experiences. Maybe a specific experience on commercial construction you may not hit in residential, but you may hit a certain type. The Revit courses, I took the Autodesk commercial project and used that as my course training for BIMWell because it was easier to have a model that was pretty well done, but I also didn't want to start from scratch and me build something. And it had
Yeah.
some MEP in it already that you can use that to teach people on how to work through and problem solve different things. So it's more of a commercial in terms of the BIMWell side, but the Revit crash course, I start a model from scratch and it looks like an awful house looking thing. And I just make fun of it the whole time just to show people how things can move. And I try to purposely make weird shapes so people can understand the different nuances or challenges they may hit. But the professional development skills, it can go to anybody. And it's all about advocating for yourself. I actually have two other courses. I have a foundation to leadership course because I gave a lunch and learn at a local firm, and they said, well, we're more top heavy and we needed help learning how to teach and train young professionals. So I created that course for them. So it kind of branches off of the Build Your Foundation, but I talk about how to delegate, because I learned the hard way, when you don't delegate, then you're just shooting yourself in the foot.
If you don't delegate, you'll die.
Yeah. And then you're going to get burned out and they can't micromanage. So
I started out like, say my dad was like, Aya, if you don't delegate, you'll die. Like, have you ever seen CEOs working 80 hours a week?
Yeah.
No. Right? Like, no. So my dad was like, you need to transfer information so that you can do the thing, like, run your business, not work on the business and do drafting.
Yeah.
Right? So
that one was created based on conversations. So I'm just trying to have conversations with firms. That's the other way. I'm not only trying to market myself, but I'm trying to help the industry as a whole. So that course was built off those conversations. And then I actually have a course launching the Monday after Thanksgiving, and that's finding your first job. So that's for your college graduates that have no idea how to put a resume together, what to put in their portfolio, how to handle a career fair, talk about the interview process. Let's talk about compensation. And so that's a mini course, and I purposely priced it really low, because I know
for the mini course, like
$34 for the mini course.
That's perfect. Yeah.
And so I know everybody in school has so much debt and everything from school, and it's meant to be a quick course. And all of the other courses are also recorded, because a lot of smaller firms don't have the resources to expand upon training. And so by it being recorded, everybody has unlimited access once they purchase. So if they need to revisit anything at any time, they can. I can price it a lot lower than a bunch of one-on-one presentations or one-on-one coaching, or having me travel to an office and having an office pay for my flights, my hotel, and everything. So that's why I created it digitally and have it all recorded.
I love it. Yeah.
To make it affordable for everyone. But any firm can really use it. I've seen project team issues and document issues anywhere from small firms of 5 all the way to 1,300 people firms. The issues are consistent, and it just depends on what other resources you have. But everybody can be very busy. And so how can you build this into onboarding, or if you've got a new professional transitioning to a project architect or team lead, that Foundation to Leadership course would be great, so they can start learning, okay, if I want to delegate properly, there's actually 7 levels of delegation, and you need to know where you are, but you also need to understand that trust is the main thing that forms a team. Just because a group is working on a project does not make them a team. A team that trusts each other is a team, because that's how you can get stuff done and how you can have fun in architecture. Right. So that's where I try to teach those skills along the way. And I still talk trust in the foundation course, because you need to learn how to build trust from the low end up to leadership, and leadership needs to know how to build trust so they can delegate more to you and give you more ownership in your work. So
that's great. So one more technical question. With Revit, do you share, or do you also give lessons on building technology? Like, because a lot of architects or fresh grads don't know anything about, wall types and things like that. Is that part of the course, or it's just technical knowledge of the software?
It's more technical knowledge of the software, especially in the crash course. I do talk about materials and how sections get put together. But I haven't had time to dive in and add even more detailing. I want to work with my local product reps to see if I can get on a job site and show them something installed. Because if you can't get on job sites as readily, that's the easiest way to see something put together. And that's just going to take time, and for me to be able to get on site and see it, unless I can find another way to have like another video and cross over to discuss about something coming together. But I really want a product rep in that discussion with me, because I would love to come at that type of discussion as asking questions as if I am a young architect, and having them answer it in a specific way, because they're going to know more about the detailing of it. And I would want to use it as my own learning opportunity as well, because I learn a lot faster and better when I'm on site. So
Exactly.
I want to go
100%.
I
Yeah.
want to go look at materials I've never put in a project before. And
Mm-hmm.
so I don't want to teach it, but if I can record while I'm learning it and then have it to teach others, but that I may end up putting on just the YouTube channel as general learning and maybe not necessarily in the BIMWell course. So it's on my list for 2024 to try to take a look to see if I can integrate some things and get on job sites locally.
Or maybe go to Kent State and like teach, like talk to your alumni and, like I'm sure they'll be open to it. I mean, that's such a rich resource that everyone should have. I mean, you have a huge market out there. Like, how many architecture schools need to know about you, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, I took a course when I when I graduated from NJIT and Columbia. I did an AutoCAD course. I mean, I'm not a Revit person. I know a little bit. My team, they're all do Revit, but it was we that time we had to go to a site, like take the train and do study on at night
Mm-hmm.
after work. I mean, right now we have resources at our fingertips, right? And then what's the investment of what I'm looking at your course? So the three bundle is 750 or whatever.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I
that
mean
sounds right.
that's
Yeah, it's
yeah
750, but I had
for the
700 in my
three.
head
Yeah,
because I always offer if you're a firm that wants to build up a bunch of staff,
yeah,
if you've got 5 or more people, regardless of what course, I will give you a discount and I will give promo codes that are specific to a firm. So even if you want to onboard 5 people right now in something particular, but you hire somebody 2 months from now, that promo code will still work. You don't have to
so
buy.
it is 750 per person.
Yes.
Okay.
And then it's $700 for the whole bundle if you've got 5 people or more. So it'll save you some money on
Yeah,
that end. So, and the
yeah, I
bundle
mean,
is a savings rather than buying the 3 courses individually. So I try to compound it to help.
yeah,
And then I've gotten some comments from large firms on having a subscription basis. So I'm
yeah.
trying to get a hold of some of my large firm architecture leads to see what kind of subscription or style that they would be looking for. So if you're a large firm listening, please reach out to me. I would love to talk to you because I want to set up a subscription side as well for those really large firms. But I want to set it up in a way that makes sense for them and what they're looking for. So I don't want to just set something up and throw it out there. I'd rather
Yeah.
make sure I have the research that it's put together in a way that makes sense for what they need.
So when people take your course, do they have access to you if they have any questions? I mean, is that
I'm
something that that they can you say in the course? Because what if they're stuck? I mean,
they
can they email you?
they can always email me. Um I've had people reach out to me if they got stuck and lost their access. I've had people reach out to me on LinkedIn. I've had people reach out to me on my contact page. Um, my email should be on the main forms for all the
Yeah,
courses. I should double check
yeah,
it, but they can reach out to me. All of it goes directly to me. As I mentioned, I'm the main person on it. So it's all coming to me if somebody has a question or if somebody just needs help. I had a great conversation with a firm that reached out to me just to learn more about my courses, and it was great that they were able to open up to me and let me know, what are you struggling with right now in your firm? And I was able to also give them advice and stepping stones that they could do now and what courses may make sense for them based on what their needs are. So if you're trying to do a bigger thing within your organization, I'm also available to have a conversation, schedule a time to talk through it and see what I have, if anything can be helpful. And if not, I love new ideas to put on new courses. Like I said, that Foundation to Leadership course was built from a conversation I had with 2 other offices. So it's all about me learning, seeing what people need. I'm even debating on taking some of the topics like the burnout topic and stress and making it a mini course. So if somebody is
yeah.
just struggling and burnout, then making it smaller, shorter, more specific, and then it'd be a smaller price tag. And if anybody wanted to do one-on-one coaching, I'm going to try to add that in 2024 as well. But it's going to be a lot more expensive for one-on-one time than it
Yeah.
is being able to give them a recorded course that they can start to evaluate and figure out themselves, but also give them tools to how to start working out of burnout. and what steps they need to take based on what type of burnout they're going through. So
Thanks so much, Katelyn. I really admire you for what you do for the profession. Seriously, I'm glad that I met you at the Women's Leadership Summit and I met you at the happy hour. And when you said you have a YouTube channel, I'm like, oh, and it's so cute, MentorDINO. But it's more than just a cute dinosaur, guys. I mean, this is amazing. Is there anything else you would like to mention or share with my audience? Anything you would like to plug? Any new courses or the website? Yeah.
Yeah, so let's see, the new course is that more for college students coming out, trying to hit somebody at every career transition path. I'm also going to have my first ebook come out. I'm aiming for early December, and that one's going to actually be for parents whose kids want to study architecture. I know my parents were absolutely clueless on what I was getting into, and got that idea from an interior designer that said I should write an ebook. So that's off to a couple different people I have reading it right now. So hopefully that'll get launched in early December. So if there's anybody knows that's their student or child wants to go into architecture, check out that ebook. Again, it's going to be priced really low and easy since it's an ebook, and I'll probably put it on Amazon as well for anybody who likes having hard copies of things. So that's probably the other new item that's coming out. And my ARE stories, I'm going to put in an ebook that's free, and just trying to put some data and numbers behind the 60 stories I've been able to share so far to make it a little bit easier. So
your website is mentordino.com and
Yep.
your YouTube channel is MentorDINO as well.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you so much, Katelyn. I'm really impressed by everything. I'm blown away, actually. So congratulations, and I wish you, happy Thanksgiving, and very excited for 2024.
Yeah, you have a fantastic Thanksgiving as well. I have so much fun watching you grow your business and see you succeed. So I really appreciate the support. And if anybody you talk to needs help, send them my way. I'd love to hear more about what I can do to help the industry.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Architect My Life, a podcast brought to you by MGS Global Group. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you'd like to add to the conversation through your own experiences, I encourage you to be a guest in one of our upcoming episodes. Visit architectmylife.com to apply and learn how. I firmly believe that a strong community drives change and fosters success. If you'd like to be part of this community, join the All-Women Architect My Life Facebook group. Please take a moment to review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thanks again for listening. I'm Aya Schlachter. Until next time.